Hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to episode 29 of the Giant Zone. You got your co-hosts, Steve the Banker,
What's going on?
and you've got yours truly, Carl Fly Guy. Little change in format for everybody tonight. We don't have a guest with us, so Steve and I are just going to do a show here on our own. We're going to go cover a couple different topics for everybody, and we're going to see how this flows. And then we want to hear your thoughts and see what you think about this. So, given that, we don't need any introductions. Everybody's familiar with both Steve and I, thankfully. If you're not by now, well, then you need to watch some more episodes and catch up. Given that, let's start the show. There's been a couple transactions this week impacting the practice squad. Steve, why don't you bring everybody up to date on what some of those moves were?
You got it, Carl. Thanks. So, look, some people don't get excited about the practice squad. A lot of us, I think, are always keeping an eye on it because, unfortunately, you're only maybe one roster move, one injury away from having to bring somebody up. So, and this time of year, there's a lot of coming and going with the practice squad. Anyone can be signed off a practice squad from another team. So, the last 48 hours definitely chock full of a couple transactions. Wyatt Davis was a third-round pick last year in the draft out of Ohio State, I believe it was. He was a lot of discussion around him. One of the top offensive linemen coming out of high school when he came out of high school. He was signed off our practice squad by New Orleans. What does that mean? It means it opened up a spot for us to bring Roy and Betka back. Roy was that huge kid that OCU Minora, our former great defensive end, found through his what's called Uprise program, where in Europe and the African continent, he finds young, talented men to bring into the fold and try to expose them to football and then maybe possibly try out for NFL. And Roy tried out, got signed to a summer contract, summer camp. They brought him back to the practice squad. I'm excited about him because there's only so many human beings walking around the earth that are his size. He's 6'9", 320. And if anybody watched any of the Giants.com videos, listen, the kid's gold. He just seems like a great person, works his tail off, has all the physical tools. He's just hardly played football. So you know what? The Eagles and some other teams have found some diamonds in the rough like this all over the globe, literally. Maybe this can finally be us striking a little bit of gold with that. So I'm excited. And then 2 days ago, so not today, but the other day, we signed wide receiver Marcus Johnson. I'll just keep it quick, guys. I see him like a CJ Board clone. And it's not ironic. We signed him to the practice squad and they released CJ Board. He's 28 years old, wide receiver. He's a journeyman. And I think one of the reasons the Giants signed him is they know a lot about him. And the reason is Brandon Brown, our assistant general manager, when he was the assistant director of pro scouting in Philadelphia, they signed him as an undrafted free agent out of Texas. So he's made the rounds, like I said, Seahawks, Colts, Niners, Titans. He's got a sprinkling of activity in the NFL. He's had 41 games, 12 starts. He's actually had 11 kickoffs for a little over 200 yards. So nothing to get excited about. He's a body. Think of him as a replacement for CJ Board. All that being said, I think the transaction that everybody was waiting for a long time, and quite frankly, all summer or maybe even the off season, was Darius Slayton. Carl, I'll swing it back to you. What happened with Darius?
Thank you, Steve. Good job on the practice squad, too, by the way. So for anybody that's not aware, Darius Slayton's contract was restructured this week. So he took a pay cut to stay with the team. His salary went from $2.5 million down to $965,000, which is the league veterans minimum. That equates to a $1.6 million savings on the cap this year for the Giants. What I find funny about this is there's nothing but opportunity in front of Darius Slayton on this roster. If you look at our wide receiver room right now, you've got Kenny Golladay, who had a horrible summer. We know what he went through last year. Kadarius Toney, who's had knee and hamstring issues again. Wendell Robbins is just a rookie. Everything sounds good and looks promising, but we don't know until the games are played. Sterling Shepard, limited in practice the last 2 days. We all know the injury history with him, but when he's on, he's good. I mean, he catches everything. He's very reliable. You got Sills, who has 2 career receptions. Then you have Richie James, who, okay, had a good camp, plays special teams. That's why he stuck. So in my opinion here, this was a good move for Darius Slayton. If he could just find his way onto the field and stay and be consistent, he's got so much opportunity to really make an impact here. Um, and his history, he came out of the gate in 2019, 48 receptions, 740 yards, 8 touchdowns. Everybody said, wow, look at this find. Then in 2020, 50 receptions, 751 yards, but only 3 touchdowns. But everybody, again, hey, we got a guy here. We got a player. And then last year, 26 receptions, 339 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then a ton of drops. Inconsistency, drops, bad patterns. What I think also led to this, or led to Slayton taking this pay cut, not only with the opportunity here, he didn't generate much trade interest. The Giants were shopping him all summer and they couldn't deal him. That's, if I'm Darius Slayton, that's telling me, if I don't stick here, I may be out of the league. So let me take what they give me here and let me work my way back into the picture here. But this move overall gives the Giants $6 million in cap savings for the year for any emergency roster moves, practice squad moves. So I understand the move by Joe Shane to get this done. I think they would have preferred to get some picks out of him, but okay, they got cap relief instead. There's a lot of doubt surrounding Darius Slayton right now that he probably, can't get it done, and this may be his last shot with the Giants. But boy, if he can do something, there's nothing but opportunity here on this roster for him. What are your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, I think sometimes what the Joe Shanes of the world, the GMs and his staff do behind the scenes, I'm not saying I'm that smart. I'm just saying now that time has passed a few days since Blake Martinez. We all know what happened with Blake. Leo's restructuring, you just alluded to, $6 million. It was Leo plus the money they're saving from Darius. I don't know. I don't know if this is true, but I'm wondering if our listeners agree with this or not. And I would love for people to jump on Twitter, let us know, jump on YouTube and comment. I'm wondering if maybe it was a lot of people are saying, oh, some of these guys like Slayton and Blake, when we could have talked about Blake, they should have cut him earlier in the year and saved even more money. I'm like, but they didn't know who they would draft. So now that we drafted the guys, they drafted multiple linebackers. Unfortunately, Beavers is hurt. We love Beavers, but they drafted McFadden, they drafted some safeties, they drafted guys that could play in the box. And then we got Wandale, we got him, we got some wide receivers. Unfortunately, Johnson got hurt in summer camp. We liked that kid. We traded for from Jacksonville last year. But the point is, I think they held on to a guy like Slayton. To your point, they couldn't trade him and get value because he's number 7 on our depth chart right now. He doesn't play specials. He's the only one of the only guys we have on the team that can stretch the field in speed. His hands are terrible. His route running's terrible. It's just just go. He just runs a go route basically. And like I said, no special teams. But if they were to have cut him, and then we need a wide receiver, who are you going to bring in? And is he going to provide the talent that even a Darius Slayton is going to have? And he did show it his first 2 seasons, to your point. So I'm disappointed. I would have liked us to have traded for him, but you know what? When I think more and more about it, it's if he's only going to cost us the league minimum of $965, I'm okay with it because unfortunately for us as Giants fans, we've seen guys get hurt, right? We've seen it all summer. We saw it last year. And I know you made that point. That's probably one of the best points you made. You're right. Like it's almost like having a cheap insurance policy, a wide receiver. So.
Yeah. And all right, so we didn't get picks, but we got a little extra space with the cap. So, you never know, and we're all aware of it, where an injury is going to pop up and where you're going to have to bring somebody in. So, okay. Steve, I don't even want to sound disappointed that they gave him a pay cut as opposed to unloading him. I understand it. I think we all expected a trade or a release, but this is not a bad scenario for him or the team, actually. And again, if he does find himself and find his game, then what have we really lost? I mean, we gain. We gain.
I'm, I'd rather they keep him at this lower salary than
Right.
just totally outright cut him.
Right. I
Because
agree.
at least at 965, there's an opportunity for us to get some value, some return on our investment.
Right. And you know what I find funny before we move on to the next subject? You mentioned Blake Martinez. I find it very surprising that he hasn't resigned anywhere else yet.
I think I saw you make the point the other day on Twitter that there's something going on that we don't know.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's further away from being prominent again than we all thought, and I don't want to say led to believe, but again,
Yeah.
what we all thought. So, and if we're right about this, Steve, that even makes his release that much more acceptable, I guess, and less shocking. Because I'll be honest with you, I was shocked. I was completely. That's one I never saw coming, and I drafted him in fantasy football, so thank you. Anyway, so given that, offensive line, Steve. So we know there's been some injuries and people in and out, and a lot of people starting to come back now. Let's kind of quickly go through who we see as the starting line, and then who we think the backups will be for at least this week. All right, and I think we can all agree Andrew Thomas is starting left tackle. You know what I find funny on the latest depth chart, the Our Lads depth chart that I'm looking at? Joshua Azudu is listed as backup at left tackle. That surprised me.
Yeah,
But
the Giants.com. Same here. I was going with the one that was released on Giants.com, and same thing. Yep.
so when I first saw that, Steve, I was surprised. Okay, but then so left tackle is now going to be Ben Bredesen. Okay, he showed well. What we
You mean
saw.
left guard?
I'm sorry, left guard. You're right. I apologize. So he showed well in the little bit that we saw him last year and in the preseason. I'm okay with that. The backup, and correct me if I'm wrong, from what I'm seeing, it's going to be Tyree Phillips, whom they just signed this week. Or last week they signed. I apologize. But so from Baltimore. So that's what I'm seeing as far as the backup at left guard.
Giants.com has Azudu as the backups on the left side at both positions, left guard and left tackle, which would make sense to me because those are the two positions he played at North Carolina.
Our lads has him backing up Thomas at left tackle and Phillips backing up Bredesen at left guard. I mean, you can make a case for either backup there. I understand your point about Azudu. I thought Azudu at one point was going to be our starting left guard. So that's why I'm surprised.
Yeah, I'll go with the Giants.com one on that because I think ultimately Azudu is going to be our left guard of the future. But one of the things I loved about him was his position flex at tackle. He played left tackle. Sometimes he would switch during the games, right, at Carolina.
Yes.
So
yes.
Listen, the reality is, though, if we see him at left tackle and Andrew Thomas, God forbid, maybe he'll surprise us and be okay, but there goes the season. I mean, we ultimately need Andrew Thomas at left tackle. So,
center, no surprise, John Feliciano.
Yep.
Now, I don't have a backup listed for him at center. Do you show a backup?
Yeah, Ben Bredesen, who played fairly well during the summer when they rotated like five guys. It was getting ridiculous.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's why Our Lads has this laid out the way they do, because Bredesen will back up Feliciano, and then Azudu maybe goes to left guard, and Phillips backs up Azudu at guard. Look, like you said, Azudu offers that flexibility where he could play either one. So I think if either one goes down, Azudu is your first go-to off the bench. I think we could both agree on that.
Yeah.
Right. Again, right guard, no surprise. Glowinski's going to start.
My boy.
And then as a backup, I'm showing, or our lads is showing Jack Anderson.
That'll be interesting.
Yes.
Giants.com has Ben Bredesen as the first guy off the bench at center and right guard.
Interesting.
Um,
So then let's go. So then at right tackle, obviously Neal's going to start. As a backup to Neal at right tackle, our lads is showing Devery Hamilton.
Same here. Same on
Okay.
Giants.com. Which
Okay. So it looks like we've got the players down. It's the mix.
I've heard some people giving him shade a little bit, and I'm not happy about that. I thought Devery Hamilton played great in the preseason. I really do.
Right.
If you had asked us of the 12 offensive linemen that they had, or 15 camp bodies, I think all of us would have assumed he would never have made the final 53. He would have been lucky to be on the practice squad. And give the kid credit. He played great. That offensive line was in shambles in the preseason, not because we don't have the potential to be a pretty decent line this year, maybe, but because everybody was, Feliciano couldn't stay on the field. Everybody was hurt, right?
Right.
Devery Hamilton is like our swing tackle out there. The kid looked good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hopefully he doesn't have to really play much and he can just sort of develop,
Right. Right. But the fact that he's going to be active, I think, is a very good sign. It's a good sign for him too. Now,
well, so let me ask you this question. 5 starters, Bredesen and Azudu would be 7. Do you think they're going to go with 7, 8, or 9 offensive linemen? Do you think Devery Hamilton's going to be active? I would assume so.
I would think so. I mean, given what we've seen, and I'm sure Shane and Dayball have seen the same film that we all have, you can't have enough. You can't have enough depth. So I think they go with the 9. I really do. And I'm comfortable with that, to be honest with you. Very comfortable with that. Now, quickly, before we move on to the next topic here, let's jump to the defense, because we all know the big question is, all right, is Ojulari going to play? Is Thibodeau going to play? And is Dane Belton going to play? All right, Belton's the other one because he broke the collarbone. Right now, I'm still seeing that they're all limited in practice. All right, Belton's still wearing the red jersey. Ojulari and Thibodeau are limited. It doesn't sound good. So I'm going to ask you, let's go through the defense. What are your thoughts about if Ojulari and Thibodeau can't go? Who do you see jumping in? And I think you're frozen.
So
there you go.
Yeah. So good. 2 thoughts. First, I think that's one of the advantages of Wink's defense is that a Julian Love can go down in the box, like based upon his scheme and his aggressiveness and the exotic looks that he gives, he can make up for some of the, hey, I'm missing the prototypical player at this position. Obviously, corners is ultimately what he relies on, having those 2 corners, which allows him to flow people in and out, interchange. So listen, we're a better team with Aziz and Kayvon Thibodeau on the field. Obviously, I don't want to, anyone think like I'm an idiot. I see them elevating someone from the practice squad, though, if they have to, at least one person. The problem is we got 3 linemen / rusher types. You got Quincy Roche. He's an outside linebacker. Everybody loved Quincy. We thought, that was the big thing with O'Shane Simmons. You got Ryder Anderson, undrafted Mandu, 6'4", 280 defensive end. So ultimately, you got 2 like defensive linemen and really only 1 outside linebacker. So I hope and I think that was probably one of the reasons Quincy signed to the practice squad is he knew it's a numbers game. Let me just stay where I'm comfortable. Injuries happen. They're going to promote me to the active squad at some point, and I think it could be happening the first game.
It might. You might be right. It's definitely interesting to see how this is going to play out. Again, I don't think they're ready to make a decision yet on Ojulari and Thibodeau. We may not know. They may go down as game time decisions.
I know. And it's a late game, right? It's 4:00, 4:30.
4:25, right? it right now, the energy is not positive that they're going to play. But you know what I found interesting here, and I don't know what you're seeing, but so you got Tay Crowder starting at middle linebacker, which we weren't surprised once Blake Martinez got cut. I see, according to our lads, Austin Calitro is starting at weak side linebacker, and McFadden's backing him up. I'm surprised. I really, well, I guess I don't know if I'm surprised. I guess they're 1-1A, but what are your thoughts there?
I'm not surprised at all. I think I know the common belief is that if Beavers hadn't gotten hurt, he probably would have been the replacement for Tay Crowder. And even that, I don't know with 100% certainty, because I think there's just something to say for experience. And it would be fair for someone to say back to me, Steve, you don't know what you're talking about. They don't have experience in Winks defense. Yeah, I know, but they have experience playing in the NFL. Right. Tay Crowder, for better, for worse, Mr. Irrelevant. He had over 100 tackles. He knows what he's doing out there. He's going to be playing against some of the same players that he's played against. So he knows their moves, their tendencies. He studied their film. I think it's a position on the field where we're not even going to see linebackers on the field at times. At times we're going to see, multiple defensive linemen and all corners and safeties. And then, so I think it's just what we like to see on paper, but the reality is Wink's going to interchange, and we only see one linebacker at times. And then Tay Crowder may start, and then he may go Micah McFadden and play Micah the rest of the game. So I'm not too worried with that middle linebacker spot, the middle linebacker and the will. I think it's not like they're getting 40 snaps a game anyway.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. And I know a lot of people were down on Tay Crowder. It's funny. You know what? He very quietly puts up 80, 90 tackles a season, 100 tackles a season.
Yeah.
And yet we're all so down on him. It's a very weird situation with him. You know, he doesn't jump off the stat sheet, and he doesn't stand out in the films, but 89 tackles a season, 100 tackles a season, that's good production.
Look, he's not going to fill the gaps.
Right.
He's fast. He's a little undersized. We all know this. He's great playing off someone like Blake, for example, like the way Blake used to play for us, like just someone that you can, he can roam and improvise. But if he misses a tackle or if he misses an assignment, it's not the end of the world, because he's got someone so strong next to him. Yeah. I think if you're relying on him as your number one, I'm more excited about Austin Calitro and what he showed those last two preseason games. This kid looks like he was a journeyman, but he's finally figuring it out under Wink's defense and the linebacker coaches we have. Yeah, I'm excited about that kid.
It's going to be interesting to see how he does against starters. We all remember how he did in the Jet game. And then look, I'm going to give him credit because he played well. He played well. He had a great preseason. Yeah. I want to see him against number ones.
Look, I'm worried
that I'm happy.
We'll get to the Tennessee game.
Yeah.
I'm worried about, I'm probably more worried about Tay Crowder seeing Derrick Henry run downhill between the A and the B gap. If unfortunately, something happens and Dex and Leo give up an assignment, and you see this kid running downhill at 260 pounds, 6'5". Right. Is Tay Crowder going to tackle him? I don't know.
So it's a perfect segue. So let's get into Sunday's game. All right. How do we beat Tennessee? What are your thoughts? I'll give you mine after. I'll let you do yours first, and I'm going to give you mine then.
So I looked at their offense and I looked at their defense. Let me just give their quick state of the union. I think on the offense, their offensive line is 100% going to be worse. I don't understand how anybody could deny that. They lost a Pro Bowler in Roger Saffold. They have Nicholas Petit-Ferre, who's a rookie starting at right tackle. He was picked in the 3rd round. He wasn't one of the top 4 or 5 offensive tackles even to come out this year. A lot of people knew who he was. He played at Ohio State, but he wasn't the cream of the crop. So you got a 3rd round rookie starting at right tackle. You got Nate Davis, who PFF, Pro Football Focus, has one of the worst offensive guards in football last year. terrible in pass protection, with run blocking. Um, Ben Jones is an underrated center. A lot of people have him as maybe the fifth or sixth best center. So they have a good center,
Mhm.
for sure. Aaron Brewer at left guard is one of their replacements. He's in his third season. He was an undrafted free agent. He's 6'1", 274. So think about that. This isn't 1986, ladies and gentlemen. He's 6'1", 274. He's very undersized for guard. Usually guards are about 50 pounds heavier than that, literally, if not more. He's only 6'1", so he probably has good leverage when he plays. But uh, and to say he's unheralded is an understatement. A lot of the fans there, and I have friends that are in Tennessee, they're very worried about him being their left guard. Now Taylor Lewan is a stud, right? He got hurt last year again.
Right.
Great player out of Michigan. Everybody remembers him, but he's coming off an injury. But still, so do they still have a good offensive line? I can't imagine it's going to be as good as it was last year. They have some talent. I think the reason that I focused on the offensive line is because their wide receiver core took a hit. They traded AJ Brown. He was their only number one. So they have Robert Woods, who was a very reliable 90 catches a year wide receiver, but he got hurt for the Rams. If I remember him in the playoffs. They have Treylon Brooks, exciting rookie, but still he's a rookie. So your wide receiver room is probably not as good as it was last year. You have a journeyman tight end, Austin Hooper. He's never been great. He's just serviceable. You have Derrick Henry, but you have Ryan Tannehill a year older. He rushed for 270 yards last season and 7 touchdowns. So is he mobile? I think he's like 38 or 39. He can get you a touchdown if it's right there for him, but he's a pocket passer. He's one of the best play action quarterbacks in the league, but his stats last year, 3,700 yards, 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. We saw the last game he played. I think he had 3 interceptions. He'll make mistakes, and that was behind a good offensive line. So I guess where I'm going with their offense is their offensive line is going to be worse. Their strength is Derrick Henry, which I think feeds into the strength of our defense, our defensive line, even with the linebacker issues we just talked about. If we can make Tannehill beat us, and I know that's probably not what we want to do in a lot of games because we're worried about our secondary, but you know what? With Xavier in the back end, with the safeties that we have, make Tannehill beat you. Make him make mistakes with that wink defense. I think the game's going to come down to our offense and can we control the clock, tire out that defense. This defense, and I can go player by player, and I don't want to do that. We can get into that. I'm more interested in hearing what you have to say. But I think if we can control the clock and offensively use lots of pre-snap motion, lots of post-snap motion, tire them out with the speed that we have, because we do have tremendous speed, right? Like first 20 yards I'm talking. I'm not talking speed, stretch the field all the way down the field. I'm talking Darius, Wandale, Shep if he plays, Saquon out in the flat with his speed. And then take our shots when we get them to test that secondary, because here's the thing, and then I'll switch it back to you. They still have a very young secondary.
Mm-hmm.
You can take advantage of that secondary. So heavy Saquon, Kadarius, Wandale. Hopefully these guys are playing, and they're. I know I picked the Titans, and you pointed that out. You reminded me of it recently, so I'm going to stick with it. But good Lord, I'm telling you, and you don't want to see a player go down, but especially with Harold Landry, he led the team last year with sacks, 12 sacks. They got Bud Dupree back, and we could talk about the players, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants figure it out. And if you're going to upset them, game 1 is the time to do it.
I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if they won this game. I expect it to be a close game. I don't see us getting blown out of this. But there was 4 things I identified as I kind of did an overview on how we can win this game. Obviously, number 1, you got to stop Derrick Henry. All right. Right now, based on everything I've seen, number 1, they just gave him a raise in the offseason. So what does that tell you? That tells you that I guarantee you he's probably fully recovered from the injury. Okay, so let's take, all right, he got hurt last year. I'm not going to sit here and say there's a lot of tread on those tires, how much tread is left on those tires. They just gave him a raise.
He's a beast.
I would not be surprised if he's your comeback player of the year, or at least in the discussion for it on that offense this year. Okay. He's the highest paid running back in the league right now. If there were injury concerns, or if he wasn't able to go, he wouldn't be. Um, right now, if all the reports are, there's been no lingering issues from the foot injury last year. He still has the same burst and acceleration, and they're still projecting 20 carries per game for him. He's going to be the workhorse. He's going to be the focal point of the offense. You got to stop him. Whether you stack the box, whether you're throwing, your secondary at him, and you're whatever you got to do, it starts right there, in my opinion. And to your point, you got to let Tannehill beat you. Which I'm going to just jump into that quickly. You got to force Tannehill to throw the ball. And you're right. I'm not going to kind of regurgitate some of the stuff you said about their wide receiver room. It's definitely not what it was last year. However, we are notoriously bad at covering tight ends. And maybe Austin Hooper is a journeyman, but the connection between he and Tannehill is very strong. They work very well together. If we don't figure that out, he could burn us. We could be so focused about stopping Derrick Henry that you know how we are covering tight ends running those seam passes and those seam
That's
patterns.
fair.
So
That's fair.
that's a concern I have there. And I think they've got to keep an eye on that. They've got to, the Giants need to control the line of scrimmage. Tennessee has a very strong front seven. Jeffrey Simmons is still a great defensive tackle. Danico Autry had 9 sacks last year, career high for him.
He's a beast.
Yeah, he is. Bud Dupree is healthy, like you mentioned. And look at their linebackers, Zach Cunningham and David Long. So that front seven, if we can control the line of scrimmage and Saquon is picking up 5-6 yards a carry, we've got a shot. But it starts there. And I'm also saying that because the last thing I was going to mention, which you touched on quickly, was you got to exploit that young secondary. And to do that, Daniel Jones needs to be able to see the field to make the right read. Now, our receivers need to get open. I think there will be some space, again, with that secondary. You've got Caleb Farley back there. He was a rookie last year, and he only had 3 starts because of injury.
He was the kid out of Virginia, I remember.
Yeah. And then Roger McCreary, who was a second-round draft pick this year. So there's definitely opportunity to take advantage of that secondary if you control the line of scrimmage and if Daniel Jones has time to see the openings. So, I kind of share some of your thoughts and comments there. But again, to sum it up, I would not be completely surprised if they do win this game. And if people want to say it's pie in the sky thinking, okay, I believe that they've got a shot. But I do believe this is going to be a close game. 3-4 point game, maybe something like that.
Let me ask you a question. I said this a few months ago when we were looking way ahead to the season, and there was so much less we knew about the team even at that point. I think I said it after the draft, and I was starting to get ahead of myself and get excited about what our team could be, and whatever. It's the fan in us, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, listen, but I've said it a few times. We're not going to show the whole league our playbook the first 4 games of the season. Yeah. I truly believe that we're going to run more in the beginning. That used to be one of the criticisms of Dable in Buffalo, that he ran too much. Mm-hmm. And I happen to think it's also healthy for offensive line. It's easier on them. It gets them momentum. It gets them confidence. I think that's what our offensive line needs. They've never worked together, right? It's a brand new line, so they need to work with each other. And what better way than to start run blocking? And again, it gets back to what I just said, control the clock. But my question to you is, this defense is fast, athletic. They play aggressive. They swarm to the ball. I remember watching them last year. I was like, wow. They have 3 Pro Bowlers. Kevin Byard, their strong safety, is also a Pro Bowler. Right. Simmons, who you mentioned. Now Landry's out, but now they got Bud Dupree healthy, And Autry should have been a Pro Bowler.
Yes.
All that Pro Bowler, those Pro Bowl talent, and all those guys. That being said, they're penetrating and fast, but their front seven in particular is a little small compared to some other front sevens in the NFL, compared to our front seven. Mm. I could see us just pounding the crap out of that ball. Not like we're back in the 1980s again. I'm not talking like that, but and I'm not saying Saquon is a between the tackles pound the running back, but I could see us running the ball, bringing Brightwell in a bunch, and then doing play action, RPO, getting Daniel. Could you, that's my question to you. Could you see us, or do you think it's going to be more of a modern offense in game one against a team like Tennessee where you use the pass to set up the run? What would you expect? To help me, because I'm conflicted. I feel like I'm right, but then I'm like, oh, that's not a modern offense. Is that what do you think? What
I
are we going to see, Carl?
I think the flow of the game is going to dictate a lot of that. What I like about Dayball and Kafka that we didn't see previously is the ability to make adjustments during the game. So I think a lot of it is going to depend on how the game is going. I think there is a game plan. You mentioned Dayball was always accused of running the ball too much in Buffalo, and I agree with that. He didn't have a Saquon Barkley though. Now, all right, so we're saying, okay, well, Saquon's fragile, he's always hurt, but okay, Saquon's rookie year, he was healthy, and that was the best offensive line he's had.
He was magical.
Right. He ran for over 1,000 yards. This now is probably as good an offensive line, maybe if not possibly a slight bit better than what he had his rookie year. Possibly.
Oh,
Far too early to say for sure because we haven't seen them together as a cohesive unit, but the potential is there. So if that's the case, if they come out and their objective, I think the objective is going to be run to set up the pass. Keep the pressure off Daniel Jones. I still think that they have concerns about Daniel Jones, rightly so. So if they don't, and we all know this is the year he either makes it or break it. If you don't want to put much pressure on him, then then you run the ball. Run the ball to set up the pass, open up the passing game, is what I think that they're going to try to do. But what I also think they're going to do, I think Saquon is going to be, or their running backs are going to be very heavily involved in the passing game as well. And that may actually set up downfield throws later in the game. So I know it's not a direct answer. My answer is I think my gut is that they're going to run to set up the pass. But within that, they're going to do different things to set up the downfield passing game and be able to take some shots if they have to or pick their spots.
forgive me. Who do we play after this? We play Carolina, and then let's say the first 4 or 5 games. Who are the other teams we play?
It's Tennessee, Carolina, Dallas, and then week 4 is, hold on, Steve, I have it right here.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm flaking out. And there's a reason.
Chicago, and then Green Bay and London.
Okay. I think Green Bay has the potential to be the best defense in football this year. But the reason I asked who were playing the first 4 games, because I couldn't remember off the top. I knew Carolina, of course, but this might be, now it's tough to say this now with Landry out. I mean, how do you say this with Landry out? But at least in the first 4 games, this might be the best defense we play. Because I know Dallas has, Micah Parsons, and they rebuilt that defensive line under that coach they brought in last year, and he's a defensive coach, and but we all know, Diggs is, we know what Darius did to Diggs last year. I mean, the kid had all these interceptions, but he's not a cover safety.
Terrible cover safety.
I firmly believe this might be the best defense we play in the first 4 games.
You might be right. There's a very good possibility. You can make a very strong case for that.
And he's going to be the best running back. I mean, I know McCaffrey, if healthy, is amazing in Carolina, but I don't know.
If he stays healthy, we get the same question with Saquon.
Yeah.
Does Saquon stay healthy? If they're both healthy, that's going to be a fun game, that week 2 game, right? The 2 good running backs. Well, you got 2 good running backs going here. Again, look, all right. So, yeah, I've got Derrick Henry on my fantasy team. So, I've got a little sweet spot this year for Derrick Henry. I don't want to see him beat us. I want to beat. I'll gladly take the loss in week 1 of fantasy because the Giants shut him down. Gladly. Let me make that very clear right now.
Would it surprise you for this to be follow the rules of Tom Coughlin football? And Tom Coughlin football, if everyone remember, was win the turnover battle. Protect the ball. Remember, he started out with Tiki and then even Eli. Don't turn the ball over, cause turnovers. He kept the game simple. Just win the turnover battle,
Right.
protect the ball. Remember, unfortunately we got conservative at times because of that. And when we were fans back in those days, like that was part of our, the whole Kevin Gilbride offense. And should we air it out even more, Eli? And you got Eli as quarterback. I wonder if this is going to be a game where Wink's defense can force Tannehill into turnovers, and we have a better offense than we've seen in years, and it's going to be exciting. And hopefully we can do some things against this Tennessee team, especially without Landry. But maybe it'll come down to turnovers.
Wouldn't be the first game decided by turnovers.
No.
Would you be surprised? Let's say Derrick Henry goes for, I don't know, 125, something like that, and 2 touchdowns. If he puts up those numbers, can you still see us winning this game?
1,000%.
Agreed. It's only 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm fine with Adoree covering Robert Woods. He's 30 years. Robert Woods is 30 years old. That was a bad injury he had in the playoffs.
Ooh.
He's not the same player as he was, and he was never Odell Beckham to begin with. I mean, Robert Woods was a good receiver, but he's not what he was. And listen, this rookie, I liked him coming into the draft, but the kid out of Arkansas, Traylon, but he's not going to be Odell Beckham game 1, 100 yards.
He's not AJ Brown,
and I don't. Yeah, and I don't see him going to be Justin Jefferson when he came out of LSU. Like the kid's not. He's going to have his growing pains, I would think. He's not a speeder. He's a big kid. He's not a. I think he's an AJ Brown replacement. I think. Yeah, I think there's an opportunity there to score 30. I don't know what you want to call it. Let's call it.
Or
should we hold off?
Going there.
All right, we'll hold off.
No, go ahead. You started it. You let the cat out of the bag, so go ahead, roll with it.
I picked Tennessee to win weeks ago when we did this. I know I did, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants can win a game like 32-27, 35-28. Tennessee's going to make their points, but I think that Tannehill is going to try to take it. Tannehill will be too tempted to do play action and to try to test our secondary. I think the whole league is salivating to test Aaron Robinson and, Flott if he's out there. I get it. But Tannehill's also shown that he'll throw 3 interceptions. So I could, man.
I could see us winning some of those shootout type games. I don't see us putting up 30 points against this defense.
No.
If this game is like a 24-21 game, we're in it. I don't see us not against this team. Now, we 2 against Carolina, maybe. Their defense is actually not bad. So
Vrabel's a hell of a coach.
Oh, he's a great coach. He was a linebacker when Daboll coached him, when Daboll was the linebacker coach in New England.
And he was one of the rare 2-way players. He played tight end at times too.
Yes, he did. And he had a lot of touchdowns.
Great player.
Right. And more touchdowns than Kadarius Toney.
He was an old,
I should say.
He was an old school player for modern times.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to discredit Tennessee much because I still think, look, they make the playoffs the last 4 of the 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. And the end of the year last year, they were the number 1 seed in the AFC last year, weren't they?
Let me throw you something we haven't talked about before we move on to a different topic. I've heard it a little bit. Some of the big time sports broadcasters, I've heard a few of them talk about this. Malik Willis may get some plays.
Yeah.
So Tannehill's your starter, but they'll put packages in for him. Kind of like what the Niners tried to do a little bit with Trey Lance when he first came as a rookie. Like, we don't want to give him too much, but we'll change things up and really mess with you guys on defense by throwing this kid in with some special, because he's a totally different, reminds me of Steve McNair, rest in peace, years ago, right? So we might see that.
Look.
And I bet Wink's going to be prepared for it.
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm conflicted on that because the Giants' history against mobile running quarterbacks is not good.
I just had a flash of Randall Cunningham.
Yeah, you're right. Those nightmares come back. But we
Uh,
also never had Wink calling our defense either. So, and we're all a little shell shocked, given what we've seen the last 10 years or so. You and I go back to the 80s and 90s, and well, we could stop anybody. But yeah, I don't want to see Malik Willis. That scares me
yeah.
for so many reasons. So many reasons.
Keep Tannehill in there, baby.
Yes, yes. All right. So let's close out, Steve. Let's do something here. Let's kind of go through the divisions.
Let's have some fun.
Yeah, let's go through the divisions and let's pick the divisions. If you want to just pick division winners, you can, or you want to see how the standings come out, however you want to do it. And then after we do that, we'll do the wild cards and give me a Super Bowl prediction. How's that?
Let's do it, baby. I like it.
Right.
I like it.
So let's start in the NFC since this is a giant show, and NFC East.
I got the Eagles winning the NFC East.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. NFC North.
I have Minnesota.
So do I.
Yeah.
Interesting. So do I. NFC South.
I have a surprise for you. I'm taking New Orleans to win it.
Ooh, okay. I'm taking Tampa. I'm going to go chalk.
Yep.
I actually have New Orleans third. I have Carolina in second, believe it or not.
Oh,
I think they're going to surprise some people. I do. I really do.
okay.
NFC West.
You feeling good about Baker?
I do. I actually think he's going to stabilize that offense. I do. I'm not putting them in the playoffs, but I think his influence and his play is gonna really stabilize that offense.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, and they got Icky now on the offensive line as well. So, again, I see them in second. I'm not believing the whole New Orleans hype train yet. I'm not.
Okay.
NFC West.
San Francisco.
So, okay, I took the Rams. I had the Niners in second.
Yeah, I think chalk is the Rams for sure.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Just because of the quarterback situation,
Mhm.
but San Francisco was not far away from going to the Super Bowl last year. So let's go. So who are your NFC wild cards?
So NFC wildcards, I got Green Bay.
Sure.
I think, yeah, Tampa Bay
Okay.
and the Rams.
So I've got San Francisco, Arizona, and Green Bay.
Oh, so you don't have New Orleans making it, but you got Arizona making it.
That is
Okay.
cool.
Which, listen, it's Kyler. If he stays healthy, ton of talent there. I mean, it could easily happen.
Yeah, there's too many question marks with New Orleans for me to put them in there. And then who do you have coming out of the NFC in the Super Bowl?
Well, so you want to do the division winners first?
In the AFC?
Oh, wait.
You want to do the playoffs?
Wait. Are you saying who do I have coming out of the NFC for the Super Bowl?
Yes. Who do you see representing the NFC in the Super Bowl?
Man, so this was tough for me, but even though they're a wild card, I got Green Bay.
Interesting. I've got San Francisco.
Yeah, I just think I don't see the Rams doing what they did last year. I think their offensive line is going to be worse. I think they signed.
Got a bad elbow.
Yeah, yeah. We just found out he had surgery in the offseason.
Hey, look, that's your pick. Roll with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, you can make. I see Green Bay taking a step back, but I mean, I can clearly see why you would have them doing this. I mean,
I think the biggest question mark for me with Green Bay is I think their running game is going to be phenomenal. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. I think they might have the best defense in football this year. A lot of people aren't talking about it, but if you really start looking into it, their defense may be number one this year. It's wide receivers, but he's shown an ability over the years to essentially train and nurture young wide receivers. To me, that's going to be the tail of the season. I think they're going to have a good offensive line again. I think they're going to have great running backs, and great defense. They're gonna have a great defense. I think it comes down to, can Aaron Rodgers finally perform in the playoffs where he's fallen short? And are they going to have, and I think it might actually be better without that true number one wide receiver like they've had in the past, who's now in Las Vegas.
Right.
Um,
Now spread the ball around. You don't know who to key on that offense right now.
I think there's going to be some surprises this year. We can only imagine what they are, and I wouldn't be. I think that's going to be one of the shockers.
You know what I found difficult was I found the AFC to just be so strong this year
Yeah.
that it was hard to focus on the NFC and say, all right, which team is going to represent the NFC this year?
Well, I don't think the NFC is going to win the Super Bowl this year.
I agree, but I went with San Francisco. They were close last year. Not too many subtractions from that roster. A couple tweaks here and there. Boy, if Trey Lance steps up, that's another weapon to go with Debo and the running backs and Kittle and I just, you know what? I just think that I think Shanahan's got to figure it out there, and that's kind of with them.
I think injuries, as much as we've always said, it's the teams that manage to stay healthy.
Right.
2007, when we won the Super Bowl, we had all those draft picks, but we also just stayed healthy.
Yeah.
It's a war of attrition. Like, who can stay healthy and not have the bad injuries, or the teams that have injuries but have the depth to overcome it? It's all right. So talk AFC. Who do you have winning the divisions in the AFC?
I've got Buffalo winning the East, obviously.
Me too.
I've got this one was tough for me. I took Cincinnati to win the North again.
Me too.
Baltimore's running game is in shambles right now. There's some injuries still there, and the receiver corps I'm not in love with. Okay, but hold that thought. I've got Indy winning the South.
Me too. Me too. And that wasn't. I kind of waffled on that a little bit.
Oh, I did too. With Tennessee, I couldn't.
Well, you were waiting for me to pick Jacksonville.
I certainly was. I absolutely was.
I thought about it for a split second.
And then I've got the Chargers winning the West.
I swear. Me too. Like, I could show it to you. Yeah.
So
that's fun.
AFC wild cards, I have Kansas City.
Me too.
Baltimore.
Me too.
And Miami.
I got Vegas. I went back and forth. To me, it came down to, I really don't like Carr, and I don't have any faith in Tua. But I was like, there's just so much talent on that Vegas team, man. And I really like what the drafting they've done in Miami, and they brought Cheetah over. I mean, how can you get out of it? But I don't know, man. Like, but then there's going to be a great quarterback who's going to go down, and we can't predict it. And that's going to change everything, right? But who knows?
And you know what's strange is you can make a case for the entire AFC West going to the playoffs. You really could.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're with me. You and I both have concerns or questions about Denver and Russell Wilson in year one in that division. With all the talent they do have tremendous offensive talent. But
put it this way, it's not so much that I have questions about Russell Wilson and what he's going to do in that offense. I just think the Chargers have improved so much in the offseason. And Kansas City's Kansas City. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, I'm not going to bet against them.
I'll tell you what, though, the team that I thought might take a step back is Kansas City, because they don't have Cheetah, and I don't see the talent on their defense in the front. I know they have Chris Smith, the Pro Bowl, All-Pro defensive tackle. But other than him, they do not have the front seven talent the Chargers, they have Bosa on one side and Khalil Mack on the other
Oh,
now. The Raiders have Chandler Jones to go opposite.
Max
Oh my God,
Crosby.
what's that?
Max Crosby.
Thank you. Who's an underrated? I mean, he's a stud. Um, and then you got Denver. Like those teams have front seven rushing around the ends. I mean,
Yeah.
what does Kansas City have?
Again, Andy Reid
I know,
and Steve Spagnuolo.
I know. They have was it Frank Clark that came over from Seattle a number of years ago? Um, I mean, and they have some players, but I don't know.
Look,
That was the only thing.
There was one point, Steve, during the season last year where it wasn't Kansas City like 2-4 or something like that, and everybody was writing them off, and then all of a sudden they figured it out.
Well, they fixed that offensive line.
Okay, but still, but their defense was a little soft last year,
Yeah.
and then they figured it out. So until I see them not being able to do it, I'm not
And
going
wait,
to.
do they still have Honey Badger or did he leave?
He's gone. He went to New Orleans.
I mean, that's huge. And that on that team, the way he would roam and make up for, in my opinion, a lot of deficiencies, I don't know. I hear what you're saying. I think Andy Reid is still the genius and they'll replace. I know they drafted some players on offense and they'll figure it out offensively, but I just don't know that Spagnuolo and that defense is going to have the talent to match up against the talent these other teams have on defense in their division.
So, who do you have coming out of the AFC and going to the Super Bowl?
So for me, listen, the big three were Buffalo, Cincinnati, and the Chargers, and I really waffled on this because I think the Buffalo's built for it, and I have a feeling you're leaning towards Buffalo. I'm going to be anxious to
Say a word.
I'm going to be anxious to hear what you have to say, but I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to take the Chargers,
So,
and that's not a team that historically has ever gone to the Super Bowl
right.
and anything.
Look, the Chargers are the sexy pick this year. And hats off to them. They've done a great job putting together a very good roster out there. I like that team. I like that team a lot. Um,
They're
I
not built for cold weather, though.
They are not. And so it means they need to run the tables and get home field advantage, which is not going to be easy in that division or that conference. Now, their coach, I like the coach. He made some mistakes last year that cost him. He couldn't even beat the Raiders at the end of the season to get into the playoffs last year. So I think they're building something there. I think Herbert's going to eventually win his share of Super Bowls.
You think?
I do.
I'm worried that he's today's version of Dan Fouts. Unbelievable arm, plays out there in sunny SoCal,
but it's not going to be this year. Not in my estimation. In my estimation, Josh Allen's going to be the MVP and Buffalo's going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think Buffalo is pissed off. I think, you know who they remind me of? Buffalo reminds me of the Giants. In 85, the Giants were a great team, and they lost to Chicago in the playoffs, and they came out in 86 focused and with an attitude that this is our year, and they did it.
Or in 89, when we lost the Flipper Anderson play and he
Correct.
ran into the tunnel, and we shouldn't have lost to them. We were winning. We should have beat the Rams. And that was a Super Bowl team. And then the next year.
So I see that similarity with this Buffalo team, and I think Buffalo's going to win the Super Bowl.
But what are they going to do for a punter?
That offense is so good, they may not even need one.
Oh, my God.
Right?
No, you're right. You're
This
right.
was
Look,
fun tonight, Steve.
Josh Allen is a special.
He's a good talent.
And what I love about him is, to your point, he was tested last year in the playoffs. So he's battle tested. The playoffs are just different. And he's built to play in any weather.
Yes. Played in Wyoming in college.
And he
He's used to
stayed
the cold.
and he stays healthy.
Remarkably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's got enough weapons, right? He's got Gabe Davis, right? Gabriel Davis. He's got Jefferson to throw to.
They just extended their tight end Knox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got enough weapons where he may not have to run as much.
Yeah.
So I think that team is built to win right now, and I think they're going to. I really do. Steve, good job tonight.
You too, man.
This was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed this.
Same here.
Looking forward to Sunday. Let's go Giants, and I'm sure we'll be talking during the game Sunday.
And listen, for all of our loyal listeners and viewers, please just a real quick, gentle reminder. If you could give us a 5-star rating on Apple, if you could hit the like button and like us, subscribe if you don't subscribe, and then like us on YouTube. It really, really helps. I know Carl always does a great job asking for that. So this time I'm asking for it. We'd really appreciate it.
Steve's being the heavy tonight.
There you go.
Steve, thank you so much. Everybody, we appreciate it. Go Giants, and looking forward to talking with you all next week and hopefully having a happy recap.
Go Big Blue.
Everybody, good night. Steve, good night. We'll talk soon.